Hello everyone, WatchThisReview here with a look at Sportsmaster from Mattel's Young Justice line. A character a lot of people were looking forward to, possibly because they weren't expecting to see him come out in the 6-inch scale. Personally, I am looking more forward to Cheshire, who I believe is coming out. I don't know when though. A sort of interesting side note, above was neither here nor there. If you look at these little bursts here, it says includes sculpted diorama and lots of weapons, which is a little bit different because the first wave it seemed like every figure was built as coming with 7 accessories, so that's cool. And then of course he's an extremely posable figure, so that's awesome. And again, for whatever reason, some of his accessories are falling out. The nunchucks, they're just tipped or whatever. Kind of weird, kind of funky, but hey. Back of the box is a little read-up on the character. I personally do not know a ton about him. I mean, granted, he's made the occasional cameos in the various cartoons and stuff. I believe he originally premiered as a Batman rogue, but that's the extent that I know of him. Other than, bearing a striking likeness to Casey Jones, although of course he probably predated him by quite a good amount of years. Also, it's interesting when you call him a Sportsmaster. But there's one sport you probably won't excel in if you're wearing all that heavy gear, and that sport would be swimming. So, yeah, keep that in mind. Back of the box shows Superboy, who I also picked up. Wasn't initially going to buy him, but got him for a good price. Just nowhere near as exciting as this, though. I mean, look at that. It's a really cool setup and everything. Lots of accessories, so without any further ado, let's get him out of the box. And here we have Sportsmaster out of box. Now, before I get into his wide array of soft rubbery weapons, which are kind of weird, or his really awesome display, let me just address a sort of long-standing gripe about the way that Mattel, I guess, packages these figures, because once again, the knee is a little bent and stuff because they have them in these crazy pre-posed positions in pack, and more often than not, that does cause a mild distortion to a lot of the joints, and you think that Mattel would be aware of this by now, but they keep doing it. It's really frustrating. At least they don't use as many rubbery plastic bands. That is a plus, because that made things a lot worse. But quick run through of his accessories. They're all this kind of weird rubbery plastic, as previously mentioned. Look at that. It's freaky. I mean, even like the thicker part of the bat. I don't know. Really wish they would have just gone with a standard plastic. Though this was made in China, so, not the same amount of quality, but he comes with his aluminum bat, metal bat or something. It's a really cool boomerang. A knife. He actually has another knife on the side of this little display thing here. Ooh. Which actually is identical, but it's bent because they use the rubber band. And the spear that he's carrying, as well as the nunchucks. And these little kunai, or throwing knife stars. Sorry, shurikens, not kunai. Kunai would be throwing knives. Get my ninja terminology all mixed up. As for his display base, this is really awesome. I think this was the proposed way to set it up. If you look right here, the pieces are actually all interchangeable. Although there are kind of limits on what you can do with the base. If you look underneath here, it's got these little prop things. Each side has one prong, then 3 receptor areas, so you can mix and match so long as you have one prong to a receptor, which means that you can't get the little peg hole this way just because it doesn't work that way with the display. I don't know, it's really cool and all. Then of course this is sort of interchangeable with that one and everything. As for Sportsmaster himself, now that we've discussed the props, everything. And again, these are really neat. Sort of went more all out with this one. Quick reference point for height. Bring in classic, I think it was classic for Detective Batman from Wave 1 of DC Universe Classics. So as you can see, Sportsmaster is actually a taller character. Young Justice stuff tends to be scaled a little bit smaller just because, they are teens and everything. And here he is next to Aqualad. So I do guess that he's scaled pretty well. I mean, in general, I think the Young Justice line is scaled to right about where it should be. It's kind of cool where he's a good deal taller than Batman and everything. I do like my rogues being a bit bigger than the heroes, just when, they're supposed to be these really huge ones and tough and everything. Sounds bizarre, but whatever, roll with it. As for Sportsmaster himself, you're looking at what seems to be an entirely new sculpt. I mean, so often they recycle parts and everything. And other than possibly the shoulders, maybe the biceps, it looks like everything on him is indeed new. Obviously the new head sculpt, but the new torso piece with a collar, which I can't recall seeing something quite like this. Here are the abs. This is all sculpted in. It's carved for these little things. Some little utility belt thing. Another little pouch here, which I guess has some sort of batons or something. In addition to bands, again, carved in. Knee pads. Some khakis, whatever kind of loop. It's pretty neat. And then brand new boots. So yeah, he's definitely got a crazy amount going for him. Then just look at the hair. Some pretty wild looking hair sculpting. I mean, I do wish it was a little bit longer because it just sort of doesn't stick out as much as it possibly should. But again, when I see him, he does remind me of Casey Jones from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles franchise. Also, is it just me or does his head look like crazy small for the rest of his body? I know, because it looks like his head's basically the same size as Aqualad's, except for Aqualad's body's like a good inch or two shorter. At least an inch. I would say an inch or two. Other than that, really nice looking figure, and I do love these little arm pads and everything. Which again is a soft rubbery plastic. This one's just directly sculpted on, which makes for a very cool looking appearance. The hands, they actually do open. Just wondering how it happens, but he can kind of grip the spear. I guess the other portion here, you can hold it one hand or whatever. We can alternate with both hands. Do want to just kind of mess around with it and get him to kind of hold the spear. Yeah, and that's something I've really got to mess around with a bit to get him to hold that weapon properly. Some of the other ones. Oh, this table's not very sturdy. Here he is about to chuck a boomerang. It's been pretty cool. Not a whole lot of color use on this. I noticed that, the Young Justice line's mostly just solid colors, it looks like. Because I guess it's sort of more towards the style of the show and everything, where you don't really have as much shadowing and, various effects, which I guess kind of works. They do look a little bit brighter and everything than your standard DC Universe Classics figure. It's also just kind of interesting how we have all these little spin-off lines in stores now, when the core DC Universe Classics line is mostly going to be offline going forward. It's just kind of bizarre. Quick run through of articulation. Should point out that his hands and stuff are kind of inward. It's kind of a neat sculpting thing. But you have a point of rotation here at the wrist, single jointed elbow, point of rotation at bicep, Because this part's separate, you can actually get full rotation here. Might just pop the plastic up a little bit. I think this is glued on. Head rotates, not a whole lot of up-down motion, which is a shame. Again, just impeded in the back here. Diaphragm joint, rotation at waist, standard motion at legs, point of rotation at thigh. It's all kind of standard stuff. Although, this joint does look a little bit better concealed. Single joint at knee, then single joint here at ankle. All in all, I'd have to say that Sportsmaster is one of the cooler figures in the line. Which, has so far kind of shaped up to be sort of like a little mixed line. I do like some of the figures quite a bit. Some of them I think look a little bit more awkward. But yeah, Sportsmaster is definitely one of the cooler ones to have been released so far, although my favorite has to be the Aqualad. At any rate, this has been a look at Sportsmaster from the Injustice line. Again, I should probably mention that the shurikens do detach. I just haven't bothered doing the flat rubber band here and stuff. So, more accessories. This guy is completely loaded, and actually I should point out that this little accessory thing here, you can kind of just stack them on the little stand. Sort of. So yeah, it's kind of cool. But until next time, folks.